Hey Tristan, don't you think our project team is so diverse?
Yeah, I do.
I mean, I've never worked on a team with so many different types of people before. People with many different skills and talents, people from so many ethnic and cultural backgrounds, people with different beliefs and preferences. Wow, it's so cool how our differences are contributing to our amazing product.
Yeah, you're right that our team may be pretty diverse, but I haven't really been feeling like this team has been very inclusive of all the members. And actually, I don't think our company does a great job of promoting diversity.
Okay, but why does it matter that we're inclusive? Doesn't it being this diverse mean that we're super inclusive?
No, not really.
Oh my, looks like we've run into the classic diversity without inclusion fiasco. While Bailey compliments the team's diversity, she is missing a huge component of the diversity conversation, inclusion. And as Tristan states, without inclusion, certain people groups may not feel welcomed and definitely won't feel comfortable in their environment. You see, inclusion is defined as being included within a group or a structure. And to include means to comprise or contain as part of a whole. Now, how can a whole be truly whole if it doesn't utilize all of its parts effectively? So inclusion, therefore, is of utmost importance when having any conversation about diversity.
Hi, Param.
Hey.
So I was just talking with the other managers earlier this morning, and it was so cool seeing how diverse our company is. It's awesome to have you on my team. You definitely help increase our company diversity, so thank you for that.
Well, thank you. But I've been meaning to talk to you about it. I don't feel really comfortable being who I am over here. I don't feel I can perform optimally because I feel like I have a lot of skills to contribute to the company, but in the end it feels like I'm just here to make the company more diverse.
Oh, stop it, Param. You're so much more than that. But why does it matter that we're inclusive? Doesn't being this diverse mean we're super inclusive?
Well, not really.
Well, looks like we have another classic case of diversity without inclusion. Big red flag. This company needs some help. Rather, the people of the company need a deeper understanding of what diversity is, why inclusion is important, and probably quite a bit more. So today, I'm thinking that we give a brief but thorough answer to some of the topics centered around diversity and inclusion, particularly in the workplace. Diversity is not a sometimes issue that only needs to be addressed sometimes. Rather, diversity is an always issue that needs to be cultivated, supported, and reinforced. By recognizing people's similarities and differences, we can become better employees and stronger leaders. In order to strengthen the sense of teamwork in the workplace, it is vital that people have an understanding of diversity and are able to respectfully dialogue about it. In order to help people learn how to recognize and correct stereotypes, to find common ground, and to be able to work with and celebrate difference within the team, open communication about diversity must be fostered. We're excited to have you along for this diversity and inclusion workshop, where we plan to showcase 4 big diversity clashes, concepts and buzzwords that oftentimes are seen as competing, but can be much more effective and powerful when implemented together. So the first of these clashes, as foreshadowed in the skits at the beginning of this workshop, is about diversity versus inclusion. Following that, we'll discuss the clash of diversity education versus application. Third, we'll dive into a discussion surrounding the clash of the visible versus the invisible aspects of diversity. And finally, we'll conclude with the clash of quota versus management. We hope that you'll walk away from this workshop with a greater understanding of these clashes and why they're so important to be discussed and implemented in the workplace.
Diversity and inclusion is meant to help challenge individuals and organizations and break barriers of inequality. You can't have diversity without inclusivity. Companies that value and acknowledge their employees build respectful relationships through employee engagement. No one wants to feel excluded or oppressed in their workplace, and no one wants to feel undervalued as an individual. Diversity in the workplace should be celebrated. Educating employees about diversity and inclusion within the workplace is necessary and very important. Studies have shown that companies who prioritize diversity have high productivity and less turnover. Today, hundreds of companies have included diversity into their policy statements and have had positive outcomes with sales and partnerships. The best kinds of practices include fair treatment, equal access to opportunity, teamwork, a focus on innovation and creativity, organizational flexibility, responsiveness, and evidence of leadership's commitment to diversity, which includes appointing a chief/diversity equality office. It also includes representation of diversity at all levels of the organization, representation of diversity among internal and external stakeholders, and diversity education and training. To be successful, diversity and inclusion has to be a top-to-bottom business strategy and not just an HR program. However, 65% of senior executives believe it's HR's responsibility to implement diversity and inclusion programs. The majority of companies measure the success of their diversity and inclusion efforts with metrics such as employee productivity and turnover. Some strategies that can also be helpful are creating a focus and strategy at the CEO level and assigning a top executive the responsibility for leading and sponsoring the diversity and inclusion program. Creating behavioral standards and holding leaders accountable for results is important, and training people at all levels on topics like unconscious bias is key.
An experience I have with the clash of diversity versus inclusion was attending Alabama my freshman year of college. During my time there was a scandal in the Greek system that a very well-liked and respectable African-American girl was dropped from every sorority because of her race. As a result, she went on Good Morning America to address the situation. In my mass media class, the professor decided to open the floor for discussion, and that's when I first experienced the difference between diversity and inclusion. The class was filled with about 75% white students and about 25% black students, and skin color had never been more prevalent than during this debate. A white student contributed by saying, well, wouldn't the black student feel uncomfortable in a sorority full of white girls? And a black student responded by saying, I'm a black student in a room full of white ones, and I don't feel uncomfortable. This experience has stayed with me since that day. It opened my eyes to the fact that just because one is in a diverse environment, it does not mean it is an inclusive one. As I have shared an experience that really changed my view of D&I in our society, I'd now like to open the floor for you to share any similar experiences you have had with the group.
We see the clash of education versus application in many areas of our lives. Even as young children going to school, we learned so much information, but didn't always effectively apply what we learned. Does the phrase in one ear and out the other sound familiar to anyone? I know I can think of many situations in my academic, my professional, and my social life where I learned something of great importance and then forgot about it shortly after, just because I wasn't given the opportunity to apply what was learned. A posture of learning about diversity and inclusion without applying it is detrimental to your own growth as a person, the growth of those around you, and the growth of your organization. You will likely miss out on the opportunity to fully see the unique gifts and perspectives that others bring into a situation, which means delivering a product or a service that isn't reaching your team's maximum potential. However, a posture of applying diversity-related concepts before learning can be just as detrimental. Employees must be open to learning, to listening, and to understanding, all before applying. Both learning and applying should realistically be happening every single day. And when it comes to diversity and inclusion, learning and applying, this is no different.
As employees of an organization, you must create safe spaces for others to be able to learn, no matter their background or history when it comes to diversity learning. At the same time, you must cultivate an environment where your learning and the learning of others can be practiced. These things will create a healthy workplace environment where diversity can be valued, welcomed, and wanted.
Organizations and individuals benefit when exposed to differences. An informal mentorship program is a great way to grow in your understanding and application of diversity and inclusivity concepts within the workplace. The idea of this informal mentorship program is that more experienced employees can help facilitate the social relationships for new hires, particularly minorities who may feel marginalized in the organization. Assigning coaches, mentors, and sponsors levels the playing field and helps people connect across differences. Remember that no matter how diverse the work group, all its members have one thing in common: the work. That means events that celebrate a win or otherwise highlight the collective work itself will help group members relate more easily. And opportunities for employees to apply their learning in a low-pressured social environment, such as a company-wide luncheon, can be very beneficial for company culture. One strategy trainers use to increase the likelihood that diversity-related skills are implemented beyond the class itself involves practice. The workplace can be both our practice field and our game field. This means that instructors in diversity management courses must not rely on a single case study or role-play exercise, but rather include multiple and diverse opportunities for students to practice diversity-related skills. And you, as the students, must commit to listening during diversity courses and workshops while applying your learnings regularly.
A personal example of these concepts goes back to my college days. The wonderful university that I attended had mandatory workshops for every student regarding diversity and inclusion. There were so many important concepts and learning opportunities during this one-time workshop, such as collaborative exercises and engaging discussion to build participants' communication skills and their ability to collaborate, learn, and work in diverse environments. However, although there was a lot of learning, there was a rush time of application, and most participants left without much of a greater understanding of diversity and inclusion, especially in the university setting. A more effective approach could be to give students longer, more organized opportunities to apply what they have learned, following up at later workshops to see real progress rather than learning and forgetting due to little genuine application.
As skills are built, we will integrate simple role-playing and role modeling exercises in our follow-up workshops, and later integrate out-of-classroom assignments. An action learning approach will involve you to identify a diversity-related issue that you have encountered, discussing the problem and options for its resolution, formulating an action plan, and monitoring of outcomes. Do you have any real-life examples that showcase consequences when there is a disconnect between learning and applying? Take a moment to share an experience with a partner next to you.
There's more to diversity than just appearances. Many of the things that make us diverse are not visible characteristics of a person. Things such as religion, sexual orientation, or class may not be obvious characteristics of a person when you first meet them.
It is important for people as well as organizations to create an inclusive environment for everyone. This includes all characteristics of a diverse group of people. The experiences that we have throughout our lives are what shape us into who we are. Some personal experiences or identities that we have may have more influence on us than others. Each individual's experience is their own, and it is important to respect the opinions of others. To do this, we have to recognize that everyone has experienced different things throughout their life.
In the workplace, diversity of opinion is important. Without a diversity of opinions, decision-making in the workplace can be impacted. When people have different perspectives and opinions based on their personal experiences, they are able to come to more informed decisions that take these different perspectives and opinions into account.
Less visible characteristics of diversity must be taken into account at all times. Because they may be less obvious, it is possible for people and organizations to look over them. An inclusive environment for all must be created if a true diversity of opinions and viewpoints is wanted. For example, if someone in a group makes negative comments about a certain religion, anyone who identifies with that religion may feel discredited and may feel uncomfortable sharing their opinion. There is more to diversity than just appearances, and people can associate with more than one identity at a time. Many of these identities may have effects on the other, which is called intersectionality. It is possible for a person to be treated differently with regards to more than one characteristic at a time. Rather than being discriminated against for being a woman, someone could be discriminated against for being a black woman. Intersectionality is the interconnected nature of social categorizations such as race, class, age, and gender as they apply to a given individual group, regarded as creating overlapping and interdependent systems of discrimination or disadvantage. Identities that a person may associate with may not be outwardly obvious to someone. Things such as religion and sexual orientation may not be something that people notice about someone unless they know them personally. This does not mean that they are not affected by or discriminated against for these identities. Because these characteristics may be less visible, they may not be taken into consideration in many settings. Making an assumption about someone based on the perceived norm may be an issue.
To create an inclusive environment, people working within a business as well as businesses must understand that these differences exist. Only after these differences are acknowledged can an environment in which everyone is treated equally be created. Having an environment in which people are created equal is not only fair, but a better environment for making decisions effectively. These differences are everywhere within everyone. Having a basic understanding of these visible and less visible characteristics and valuing these differences can promote employee engagement within the workplace. Invisible diversity can include characteristics such as religion, class, age, etc. In order to ensure inclusion, people must understand that not all characteristics are visible. Now take some time to brainstorm in depth within groups what you think some examples of invisible versus visible diverse characteristics may be. Each table will come up with one way you could create an inclusive environment in a workplace setting for one characteristic you identify.
When entering the corporate environment, especially the field of human resources, it is very common to see a clash between quota or headcount management and diversity management. The major difference between the two is that quota management aims to create a demographically diverse workforce, while diversity management aims to maintain the workforce effectively and create an inclusive environment for all employees within a firm. Many major corporations have incorrectly adopted the state view of managing diversity. The state view essentially determines the relationship between demographic diversity and corresponding outcome measures. However, there is a push to move toward the process view of diversity management that leads firms to create and sustain conditions for effective diversity management. The state perspective sets the stage within a diverse workforce to excel through thoughtful, diversity-related practices.
Essentially, we are now seeing that success lies more in what you do, management, than what you've got, headcount. The quota approach to managing diversity has various shortcomings. Most importantly, it lacks a strong argument as to why or how increased diversity leads to increased firm performance. It exemplifies that demographic composition reflects certain socioeconomic factors, but it doesn't analyze how this impacts the work environment. Focusing on headcounts and quota is a good start, but in order to create a truly inclusive environment, companies must direct their efforts towards managing diversity better within the firm through optimal use of structures, policies, procedures, and interventions.
So, how do we manage diversity as part of our everyday business functions? We have outlined 4 steps toward including a process-oriented diversity management approach to your organization. First, sustainable workplace transformation is a strong foundation for creating diversity management. Sustainable workforce transformation balances workforce transformation needs with business realities to ensure that diversity management practices are in coherence with bottom-line financial performance goals. Second, systemizing diversity management is a strong step to moving away from the solely quota-driven approach to sustaining an inclusive workforce. Systemizing diversity management allows professionals to plan and organize how diversity management is integrated into the organizational framework by transforming HR functions, creating new policies, and implementing procedures to integrate diversity management into the business functioning of a company.
Next, we move into developing diversity skills within a workplace. This empowers employees and managers to demonstrate effective interpersonal behavior within a diverse workforce. Diversity skills training will include competency in diversity-related skills, abilities, and knowledge to allow all employees to work alongside one another harmoniously. Both most obvious and important, our last step is promoting inclusiveness. In order to integrate diversity management into an organization effectively, the firm must actively promote awareness, respect, and valuing of all differences within the organization. This can be through events, symbolic actions, or everyday interpersonal interactions that show that diversity is celebrated within an organization.
Although organizations are now moving toward diversity management and away from quota management to create inclusive and high-functioning environments, it is important to take away that quota and management aren't actually clashing at all. Instead, quota is the first step to creating an effective workforce, and diversity management is the next step to our mission to create strong, dynamic, and inclusive environments in workplaces worldwide.
Being an international student, I have always been conscious during interviews to make sure I don't focus on my individual identity and diversity too much, because I don't want the interviewer to categorize me or hire me for the quota. Now, take a few minutes to share your personal experiences during interviews or any negative experiences with inclusivity in previous work experiences.
Well, we want to thank you so much for being a part of this diversity and inclusion workshop. We hope you got something out of today, and we hope that today is just a stepping stone in all of our understanding of the concepts and the application of diversity and inclusion. We have more videos that you should check out about diversity and inclusion right here. We ask that you subscribe to our channel here, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.